So, ESL and ESOL are two English language programs. We're going to look at what they are and how they fit together. This is a brochure that we have, just the part that focuses on the content of the programs and the pathway from ESL to ESOL. The first part of our presentation is going to be taken up with the green columns, which are the non-credit. Then we're going to talk about the blue column, which is credit. And then we're going to move over and talk about the last column, which you see some arrows. So that shows us how you move from ESL, building your English skills, into ESOL, and ultimately to normal credit-bearing classes. So the two English language programs, the non-credit ESL and the credit ESOL. ESL consists of courses to improve your functioning in personal life, in the workplace, and to build academic skills. ESOL is designed specifically for academic skills, to give you the kind of skills you get through developmental classes in order to be able to handle credit classes. But you notice that there's an overlap. Academic skills are included in ESL, and academic skills are included in ESOL. But the ones in ESL are lower level. At least the intensive academic classes are lower level. So they're supposed to build the skills for the academic skills to come in ESOL. So let's look at the two non-credit programs. The first one is courses that have COMG in front of them. They're called workforce courses, although they're really designed for everyday life, because it doesn't help you in the workforce if all you know is the terminology for the workforce, but you don't know the terminology like, do you want to go first? Or a lot of the negotiation language. So these are really called workforce classes. They're 48 hours per course. They cost $160, and it is possible to get financial aid for these courses. They're through the Texas, public education grant. And they are able to give enough money for the full course, but of course it doesn't cover any other costs like books and materials. Next, we have the ESLX classes, which are not workforce, and all of the non-credit classes that end in an X tell you that they are not eligible for financial aid through the Texas Public Education Grant. These are the academic classes, so we have two tracks, a workforce track and an academic track. And look closely, and I want you to identify to me, how are they similar and how are they different? Anybody?
I'll go first. So one way that they're similar is the COMG courses and the ESLX courses all contain 48 contact hours. So whether they meet a week or once a week, the students are receiving 48 contact hours of instruction.
Absolutely right. What else do you notice that's similar?
Well, I'll go. Okay. One of them is eligible for a grant, and the other one is not eligible for any financial aid.
That's right. Okay. And what other way are they similar?
Oh, in this particular case, price, $160 a course. And with them being the non-credit courses, these are the ones that payment is due the same day.
Yes, I thought that was, I believe you can make a payment plan on these, but I really don't know a lot about that. I've asked and been told yes.
Yes, I've gone by like the business services office and I've been able to set up a payment plan, but to set up a payment plan, they have to have access to their WebAdvisor accounts. So you could just set that up online, but if you're going to actually person once we resume in-person, operations on campus. If they're
Mm-hmm.
going to go to the business services office in the SCRS building, they will be paying in full that day.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, so I've been picking up brochures about. Sorry?
Yeah, I went with them and I asked about it to see if they could set up a payment plan in person. And as of, earlier this year, that's what the case was. We had to wait until we could actually get them into WebAdvisor. So that means if a person needs to set up a payment plan, they can't register the same day. We need to let the system sync, a day.
Right.
Show them how to get into WebAdvisor and then show
Which is
them how
complicated.
to set up. Yes, it is.
So what it suggests is that they can set up a payment plan, but it's not realistic for the very first time they take a course. Is that right?
They can. It's just if they walk in the door or they video call us and they want to sign up for a class right now, like today, if they want to set up a payment plan, they probably will not be able to set up a payment plan the same day. It's probably going to be a day or two later.
Okay, so what I mean is repeating students who come back and already have an ID number and those things, they should be able to arrange it. Is that right? But new students, of course, it's extremely complicated, and I would say probably not.
Yeah, for the brand new ones that we had come in, we're still in the offices. If they express their concern about saying, "Oh, miss, I can't pay all of the $160 today. I'd like to set up a payment plan," then I would just schedule a follow-up appointment with them for a day or two later. So I bring them back the same week, and then assist them with getting into WebAdvisor and helping them set up the classes. So that means I didn't register them in advance, because if I would have, then their courses would have dropped at midnight.
Right, but you can, once they have an ID number, are they able to, and coaching to get into WebAdvisor, then they're able to request that?
Yes, the ones I worked with, I was able to get that set up for them.
Okay, so that's good to know. I think it's so complicated to get people registered now online, but I meant sort of in the bigger picture. Once they have their WebAdvisor account, they can ask to set up a payment plan. So it's not like they aren't eligible. It's just really complicated if we're not in person.
Yeah, they'll have to have access to the system.
Good. So this is really how they're similar and how they're different. They're really similar in a lot of ways. It's financial aid and content that's different. Okay, so now let's talk about the courses and levels of each of those two non-credit programs. All classes include listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So none of the classes are specialized and narrowed down like they are in ESOL. The COMG course emphasizes topics that are relevant to everyday life or the workplace. On the other hand, the ESLX classes also do listening, speaking, reading, and writing, but the emphasis is on grammar. So while the COMG classes are organized around a unit on health and a unit on shopping and a unit on finances, etc., the ESLX classes are organized around a unit on pronouns and phrasal verbs and things like that. So you can see that for the most part, they're very similar, but when it comes to, as far as developing skills, when it comes to topics, they're quite different. There is some grammar in the COMG, but it is not well presented, and it's not the focus of attention. So more, if a student really works, really does all of the exercises and participates in class, they learn grammar a little bit more without paying specific attention to it, but just by reading it and hearing it and practicing it. So it sort of comes in the back door, as opposed to explicit grammar, which is what you get in ESLX. Okay, now let's look at what kind of courses we have. This is the non-credit. How many levels do you see?
There's 5 of them.
That's right. And the level 1 is actually not really beginning. Level 0 is beginning, and beginning is a vague term that covers a whole lot. Between a true beginner at level 0 and a true level 1 student, there is much more difference than between a level 1 student and a level 2 student. So it's almost an artificial expectation that you can take level 0 course and then you move into level 1 course. For that reason, we have multiple at least 2 semesters. So in all the cases, the books are divided into 2 parts, simply because there's far too much material to try to teach a student in only 48 hours. But the level 0, you could really expect students to take that course a number of times. And I've had students who maybe should be taking it 4 times. I used to be able to offer different books every term, so that we are covering the same material with a different approach, and they don't say, I've done that book, which doing the book is really not the same as acquiring language. Right now, we're stuck with the same book for all campuses and 2 semesters. So how many courses per level? 2. So we divide the book into units 1 through 4 and units 5 through 8. And on South Campus, so far we've been able to continue to offer it a semester long, 48 hours over the whole semester, which gives students more time to mature as opposed to cramming. Cramming is not a way to learn language, but practicing it every day, even for a little while over a longer period of time, really helps with language acquisition. And this is why I have always resisted trying to do 3-hour courses with only like 8 weeks. Instead, we do 12 weeks, 2 hours a day, to try to get the time stretched out and the student to spend more time developing the language when they're not actually thinking about it. So I don't know about you, but when I'm learning language or many things, I'll think I understand it, but it's only after I've intensively worked on it and then I've relaxed my mind and gone to do something else that new understandings, new levels of comprehension sort of emerge. And that's why we've designed it why I designed it this way a long time ago. Okay, so the credit classes are different. Or sorry, the grammar classes are different. How many levels? Duh.
3 levels for those.
How many courses per level?
3 courses per level.
Okay. So what do you think you start with in the fall?
You're supposed to start with A.
Yeah. And then you move to B, and then you move to C. That's how it's designed to be. And we follow the books, the way the book is organized. I like the way it's organized, except for one thing, and that is level 3. We work with a review of verb tenses in the fall, and then instead of continuing with more verb tenses, because this is already mind-blowing with so many different variations of verbs, we move to something completely different. And in the spring, we present the present perfect. Originally, when I started teaching with us, we did the whole thing, all of the verbs and the present perfect in one semester. And it's like I remember studying Greek, and when you keep getting, okay, here's another verb, but it works this way, and then here's another verb, but it works this way, you don't really have a time to practice any of the language. You're just cramming verbs and verb forms into your head. So that's why level 3 is a little bit, the units we cover are not consecutive, but otherwise we follow through basically the whole book. Now notice this, there is no level 0 in grammar. There is no level 4 in grammar. We used to have a level 4 and a level 5, but when the district got together, they decided that that was poaching on ESOL, so they were taken away. But the levels are pretty much comparable. The grammar you're studying at level 1 is comparable to the kind of things you're doing in level 1 COMG. So the levels pretty much track with each other. The only, whoops, how do I go back? Yeah. The only problem we have here is if you offer the first half of the book in the fall and the second half of the book in the spring, what do you do in the summer if it's the non-credit course? Ideas?
You would need to review the first part since an extended period of time has gone by.
Well, hopefully, if the curriculum is built well, you are reviewing it because what you learned earlier is incorporated into the later lessons. So if it's properly scaffolded, that shouldn't be so critical, although it might be with the grammar classes. What we had done in the past is use half a book in the fall, half a book in the spring, and then a different curriculum that's a little simpler in the summer to get people ready to start the new level in the fall. Right now we have a gap. And if you look at the titles of the classes in WebAdvisor when you're trying to select classes for students, not only will you see that some of the names are different, no matter how hard we've tried to get everybody to use the same name, then they look really different, and the only way you can figure out what course it really is to look for the COMG 1004 or whatever it is that you're looking for. But then you don't know if it's Part A or Part B or Part C. Each campus is doing something a little bit different. So the students who are studying in the summer right now are taking Part A of the COMG class, which means that those who succeed are going to be looking for Part B. But all of our new students who come in the fall are really going to be needing Part A. So we have a little bit of a problem here. And if you want to find a Part B for students on some other campus, you have to actually call and find out what it is they're actually teaching. What units are they covering? I'm teaching the grammar class level 3, and we're doing Part C right now. So because it's broken into 3 parts and they fit the 3 terms, it's very easy to know what the student has actually studied and what to point them to next.
Great. I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to ask, in particular with the ESLX courses with Part A, Part B, and Part C. So Part A, that's typically held during CE quarter 1. Part B is CE quarter 2, and so does that mean that the Part C is CE quarter 3?
4, because
4.
we started in June. Yeah.
4. Okay, 4. Oh yeah, you're right. Okay.
Now this is for South Campus.
Okay.
On other campuses, they very well may have different schedules, and on many campuses, or at least who was I talking to? I think it was Trinity I was talking to. I don't know what they're doing with grammar, but in the COMG class, they're offering COMG level 1A and then 1B. So the first half of the semester is A and the second half is B, and then the next semester they move to the next level and do that again. I think that's pedagogically unsound. So I resisted that, and as long as I can, I will continue to resist it. But that does show you that you can't be absolutely sure what's being taught just by looking at the course number in WebAdvisor or on a student's records. Hopefully we'll be able to iron that out in the future.
Absolutely. And I wanted to bring that up because I know with some of the people I've been working with, they've been even asking where to find these courses since they're not in the same place where you would see fall 2020 or spring 2020. They're in a different section under
the quarter.
Yeah, they're under the quarters.
And that is so confusing. I had to come up with a way of remembering the quarter system. And the way I do it is you have 2 things. You've got the quarters and then you've got the year. So the quarters, naturally, it begins in the fall. And every 3 months you have a new quarter starting, which means that quarter 4 is in the summer, and quarter 3 begins in the middle of the spring, and quarter 2 is in the winter. The classes that begin in January or February are still quarter 2 classes. Very few classes, on our campus at least, start in the 3rd quarter, especially now we don't have some of the little classes. We used to have some reading classes and conversation classes. We don't have those. So we really don't have anything to offer that starts between March and the end of May. So we probably won't have any quarter 3 classes. So we'll go from quarter 1 to quarter 2 to quarter 4. Now it's really weird. Now, in order to know whether you use 2020 or 2019, you use the year in which that quarter began. So like this is going to be 2020 quarter 1, and then we'll have the ones that start in February or January are still in 2020 quarter 2, because they started in the quarter that started in the end of quarter 2. But the classes that begin in March on other campuses will be starting in 2021, so they will be quarter 3 with 2021, and then the summer will be 2021 quarter 4. So I have to have these 2 images in my mind, the year and the quarter, to try to get those right. Maria.
Yes. So there is a little chart that section building provides.
Okay.
That just gives you the dates.
Oh, good,
So
good.
it makes
So
it
simple
easier.
enough. You look it up.
Yeah.
You don't have to remember.
Just look it
that's
up.
Good
There's
to know.
one that deals with the quarters and the other one that deals with, the spring, summer, fall. And so it explains everything. It's pretty just standard, because when I started building the classes, I really had no idea other than what you showed me, and I was like, okay, how am I going to figure this out?
Really?
And so they were like, no, here you go. And I was like,
oh, wonderful. I'm so glad.
So I can forward that to you guys, and that way, it'll be, I think, more like accessible.
Mm-hmm. Rather than having to memorize a model in your head.
Yes.
Very good.
Yes.
I like that.
Also, in terms of the names of the courses, the coordinators met and we looked at, there's actually a format that we're all going to be using, so that every campus is uniform.
Wonderful.
The problem is that when you have the name of the course in colleague, when you select, it kind of cuts off in colleague. So that's why there's a problem when you go into Web Advisor and seeing. So we were trying to figure out how to actually rename it, but we have to rename each and every one. You can't just have colleague rename it. Like, we have to manually go in and rename each course.
Is that going to be the next time you go to build that same course? Will that be there, or we have to correct it each time?
No, we have to correct it each time. Yeah.
There must be somewhere that can be changed.
Yeah. So the problem then comes in, for example, if I build the courses and I have that sheet, but then if, let's say, another person builds it, if they don't go by the sheet,
right,
then it could be a little bit different. But we're trying to streamline that, so that's not a problem.
Good. Yeah, it would be nice if the student can look and see that all of the courses that have the same number have the same name.
Right.
Or with an A or a B instead. Yeah, that's the goal. And I was going to put, I didn't have time to put an illustration, but yeah, it's been crazy, hasn't it, Maria?
Yes, it has.
I'm so glad you're there punting. Cherie? Yeah. Cherie? Hello?
I see. Cherie, you're muted.
Marie, thank you. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So are you Are you in control or?
Okay, so my question is, okay, so I know with the COMG classes that those are the ones that are eligible for TPEG funding. The ESLX classes are not eligible for those federal or state dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know if both sides of those classes, both types of classes, are they eligible for the TCC Foundation scholarships? Since we now have those continuing ed scholarships, like the one that Dr. Wells left before he retired.
When I have looked at those, they have all been involved in some sort of certificate program. And since we don't really have a certificate, you know, that says by the time you've done this, you have qualified for whatever, I don't believe we would qualify. Other people have encouraged me to look at them, but they're usually the kind of people who see the title of something and then don't actually pay attention to the details. So when I go and I look at the requirements, it just doesn't cover us. But if that's something you have the leisure to look into, we'd all be very grateful.
Yeah, so it sounds like if it's just the certificate programs, then it might be like those ones that we had, I guess, traditionally under CE. So
like
the
welding or, yeah.
And also staying our pharmacy technician, stuff like that. Okay.
Right, I think so. I think so. Okay, so now we're going to look at the names of the courses, and this may have changed depending on what you guys agreed. Here again is just that center section of the columns on that brochure, and the red part is one we're looking at closely. So we have the two classes, the A and the B, and instead of saying at the top COMG 1003 ESL 0, oops, it should not say 1A and 1B. It should be ESL Basic A and Basic B. But also the name is Basic Workplace Communication Fundamentals, or something really long. That's not exactly accurate. But you can see that the COMG classes all really have the same name. And if you didn't have the ESL 1A or something in the front, the only thing that would tell you what level it was is at the very end. If the field you're looking at in WebAdvisor or whatever doesn't have space for the whole thing to be printed out or written out, you wouldn't know what level it was just by looking at the name. And you'll see that all the levels have their own course number. So whether it's A or B or A, B or C, they have the same course number. And this is why it's so critical to incorporate A, B or ABC into the name for when students are looking for the class. So this is just a summary of what we have looked at, and here you also get the course names and numbers. Okay, now ESOL is different. It doesn't have two programs, it has one program. And it's 3 hours. You can't transfer it, it's like developmental. I believe, is it 190, 92? Does anybody know?
192.
Yeah, it's 192.
192, okay. What happens is that we have somehow successfully resisted tuition raise. And ESL has resisted tuition hikes over many years, and we've been forced to take some, but because our students are really the most vulnerable, I think, I'm very pleased that we've managed. There are 4 courses. Each course has 3 levels. They don't call them A, B, and C. They call them level 1, level 2, and level 3. And it is eligible for FAFSA. Okay, so these are the 4 courses. Oral communications, which is supposed to include listening, and it depends on the teacher, really, how much is listening, how much is speaking. Course in reading, course in writing, and then there's grammar and writing. And these are the courses. We see the ones on in the green are if you want to register as a non-credit student. The ones in the blue are if you register as a credit student. The tuition is the same. The only difference is that you receive credit, 3 hours of credit per course if you're taking it as an ESOL student, and you are eligible for financial aid. Otherwise, they're identical. Okay, so what is different is that you can enroll as a credit student or as a non-credit student. And just let me say, to enroll as a non-credit student is really the easiest option for people who have not established residency. And residency is extremely complicated. It doesn't just have to do with how long you live in the county. Cherie and I went to some training, and you might want to share with us how complicated this is. One of the things we found out that if you live in a family and you were a minor, let's say 18, 19, you live with your family because your culture, you stay with your extended family, and your father is the one who has the house in his name and the utilities, and nothing's in your name. Although you're working and contributing to the family, you're not considered a resident. So this causes a lot of difficulties for people who want to take the credit courses and apply for FAFSA. And it may mean that they're still, even though they've been here for a while, they're still not considered resident of the county because they didn't go to high school here or something. So ESLX is a really handy way for people to go just sign up and take the course while they're trying to work out all their other paperwork. Do you want to shed some light on that, Cherie?
Yes, absolutely. So just like Eleanor was saying, that's actually what I've run into with a lot of the students that come in. Either they come in straight off the street and want to take the credit ESLX version, or they're cross-listed and they want to switch over to ESOL because they ultimately want to earn a undergraduate degree. But yeah, we do have to work through those different types of hurdles, and it's not something that can be fixed in a week. So I would definitely second that, where if there's something that they want to do while we're working on the residency situation, if we're working on requesting credentials from outside of the United States and having to get them evaluated and all that other stuff, getting their financial aid processed, that gives them something to still work on those skills before they get switched over.
Great. Okay, so just a quick summary screens. This is the non-credit and the credit program. In the credit program, we see that there are 2 ways to register. One is non-credit. So I tried to just make a quick summary. Now the question is, how do they fit together? Do they, and how do they? And we've been working on this for over a year. We still don't all agree on the committee, but this is where we are right now. You start with non-credit in order to improve your English, and then you can move over, when your English is good enough, you can move over into ESOL. There are 2 ways you can get there. One is you can take the Versant test and make high enough scores to get into ESOL, or you can take the grammar classes level 3 and pass them, and then without taking the Versant, you should be able to go on into ESOL. So as this says, students who complete ESLX level 3, and there are 3 courses, can register without the Versant. Is that what you guys understand? Maria, I know you've been with the coordinators talking, so am I correct here?
Yes, this is true. If they are already in the ESLX level 3, they can register as long as everything is, is good in terms of, you know, whatever they need for ESOL.
Great.
Does that make sense?
So ESLX level, the grammar courses are not a barrier. The barrier is probably applying for financial aid and applying to the college, right? But
Correct.
yeah, that's what I understand to be the case. It's supposed to be a sort of seamless path, especially if they took the Versant early on.
Yes.
You would think they would have to score higher, but they don't have to take the Versant again ever. And they didn't want them to take it again because people were afraid they'd memorize the answers. So yeah, without having to take a test again, you should be able to register an ESOL. Okay, so here's the level 3. Not the level 3 of COMG and not the level 4 of COMG. Only the grammar 3 should allow you to pass into the lowest level of ESOL.
Can you say that one more time?
Sure. It doesn't matter what level you are in COMG. Let's say you're taking level 4 COMG, non-credit, and you want to go to ESOL. You'll have to take the Versant test or do something. But if you're taking the grammar class, the academic track, and you pass all 3 classes in level 3, then you can go ahead and that gives you permission to register in ESOL, provided you can register as a credit student. That is, your residency and, you know, all of those things allow you to. Or if you're barred by your residency or some other reason, you can register in ESLX and take the same course. So non-credit gives you a way to move on from grammar non-credit level 3 to the first level of the academic program, ESOL, either as a credit student or as a non-credit student. Was that explanation even more confusing? Sorry.
No, it was clear. I just wanted to make sure I got it, and then if we replay this for anybody else, I want to make sure they got it.
Good, good.
Emphasis on it, so that's why I asked. I was like, say that one more time.
Yeah, no, fine. Okay. So this basically is what I understand, and if this isn't quite correct, let me know so I can make corrections in it.
I'm reading through it.
Okay.
Yes, so that will. So yes, so if they complete ESOL level 3, so that's where you're talking about like the reading and vocabulary, the writing, the grammar, those classes. 3 they received credit for it. Then yes, that will allow them to move on to their gateway courses that are tied to reading and the writing TSI. That should make them.
That should make them TSI met. Yeah.
In those particular areas. Now, if they wanted to take anything that was based on the math, they will have to take the math TSI, which is
right. That makes sense, but not the language part.
Sure.
And even if a student is registered in ESLX level 3 ESOL, the academic program, they cannot pass into your gateway courses without taking the TSI or doing something. I'm not sure what it is. Only if you register as ESOL credit in the level 3 of the ESOL program will you have permission to go on straight into the gateway courses.
Yeah, it sounds like it's probably the way that it's programmed, with ESOL running parallel to the integrated reading and writing courses.
I'm sure.
So that level 3 should be the equivalent of integrated reading and writing 0399. Right,
it is. But if a student takes the absolute same course but registers as a non-credit student, they can't connect up and just move on into gateway courses. They have to be registered as a credit student to do that. They can still do it, but they have to apply to the college and go through all the rigmarole that they didn't do yet. Establishing residency and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, see, so I'm wondering with that particular one, so like if they did ESLX level 3, and then, you know, like you were saying, they'll have to do something like take the TSI or something like that.
Something like that. Plus apply to the college.
Yeah,
An ESOL credit student has already applied to the college and probably already done orientation, so they're ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
But an ESLX student hasn't done any of those things.
Yeah, because I know I've gotten that question with some of the ones that are still in ESLX. They haven't hit level 3 yet, but then they were asking me, okay, well, if I take level 3 and I finish level 3, can I go to English Composition 1? And I just hadn't had any that had gotten that far yet. So I'm glad you expressed that. So it does sound like, okay, you take ESLX level 3, and then we have to turn around and have you take the TSI or something that will click over in the system that will indicate, yes, this student is TSI met, we can admit them to the college, and then they move on.
Right.
Position 1.
Yeah. And I think this is the place that affects you guys the most, right? The sort of transition into credit when a student can move on and when they can't.
Right. And then what also happens here too, and I'm not sure if you have it on a subsequent slide, is once we switch them over to ESOL from ESLX, they apply to the college, they get prompted to go to new student group advisement, have all those new student like little flags and holds that pop up. What is going to pop up is they will get the flag that tells them they need to attend new student orientation. They will receive a flag that tells them that they need to sign up for STSC Transitions to College Success because developmental. Once they take that math TSI, if they're not TSI met in math, they will get flagged for the math as well.
They don't realize how much better they have it if they just put that off for a little while, especially till their English gets stronger.
Yes. So I'm bringing that up because I know that question came up this morning with some of the faculty advisors. They said, oh, well, Cherie, that is a lot of stuff. Like if they're trying to take 2 ESOL courses, STSC, and a math course, and they've maybe been here a year, and that's a maybe.
That's too much.
Yeah, they agreed with me. They were like, Cherie, that's way too much. So how we would work around that is we have what's called a TSI waiver. In the TSI waiver, there is a box on there that says ESOL waiver, which will bypass those other requirements, but you have to use the waiver each semester. And then that way, if they focus in on that one or the 2 ESOL classes, it will allow them to do that. And then once they're ready to move on, then we just don't renew the waiver.
That makes sense. Yeah. Wow. I am so glad I'm a teacher and not a real advisor. I don't know how you guys manage.
Well, I had to figure it out with some of the students that came from some of the other campuses, and I was like, wait, how did you sign up for such and such without this? And I had to backtrack it all the way through, and I was like, wait, they had to have a waiver on file. That's the only way to get around it.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so this is just a summary, and here is the same thing from the brochure. It tells students the steps through ESL and then to ESOL and down to credit, hopefully. And I don't know if anything has changed. This is the brochure that was sent to you, Maria, that you sent out. We argued about it for about a year and then finally got it done, which is a beautiful brochure, but we keep changing things, so I don't know. Oh, this doesn't talk about moving from ESL to ESOL. This starts about starting in either of the 2 programs. That's interesting. Sorry about that. Okay, so I need to move this little slide somewhere else. And I'm not sure what else we have here. Oh yes, summary of this is where I put all of those things together, I think, more or less. Now, I know that students, when they present, are told that they need to take the Versant test or whatever we're going to be using after September starts. I honestly think that because beginners score very low on that test, and at a really low level, the test does not give you that much information. I think it's much more worthwhile to wait until level 2. But I'm a lone voice on that. It also will be closer to telling us how close the student is to having the skills that they're going to need in another year or so. But right now, it's either you take the test or we put you in level 0. So that's the policy. I also want to point out, this seems to be something that's kind of confusing to the committee. COMG courses are at the same level as the ESLX grammar classes and higher. So level 4 is truly level 4. There's actually a huge gap in ability between levels 2 and 3 and 3 and 4 and 4 and 5. Just taking the course or a couple of courses doesn't give you the skills you need to be at the level of that next book. And that's really one place a lot of students are tanking. They've taken the courses, but it's mostly receptive language. They can kind of usually understand it when they read it or hear it, but they're not able to produce it. It's not really acquisition yet. And I have a feeling that there's a preference among the ESOL programs to remove the higher level of COMG because they want to put students, they want to imagine that their courses succeed our courses in level of difficulty, but they're allowing students with quite low skills to get into level 1. We're working on the cutoff skills this summer. Hopefully that will be changed, but a student who really has level 2 skills should not be taking ESOL classes, those level classes. And what I really want you to see out of this is that ESL COMG classes stretch into more difficult than the beginning levels of ESOL. So a student who just really wants to continue to develop language but does not want to take an ESOL class because it is too academic as far as approach goes. They want to be able to talk to the mechanic and just, you know, use language well without doing the academic studies. They should be encouraged to continue with COMG because it will take them, give them much more language. We're right now working on credit cards and purchasing property and stuff. And not only are those difficult to explain, they use a lot of terminology and complex sentences that are really tough for students. So level 4 COMG is much higher than the beginning of ESOL.
Yeah, I will agree with that too. I observed that from when I taught level 4. So you're in the chapter where they're talking about not just the different types of credit cards and what the annual percentage rate is. You're in that part where they're talking about, like, when they were talking about the rental properties and they said, this is a fixer-upper and this is the... Right. That one?
That's the one. Actually, I think that might be in my level 3 book, but yeah, it really stretches the vocabulary. And most of the students who come up through the program really aren't ready for the vocabulary. And most of the students who have lived here a long time are ready for the vocabulary, but they're not ready for the grammar and syntax. They still speak Pidgin, but they have the right vocabulary. So it's a real interesting group of people and hard to find exactly what they need. And we don't really offer exactly what anybody needs. We just try to get the average of what's what's there and try to then make it meet the needs of the students as best as possible.
Yeah, I agree. Because like I think the chapter that caught me the most off guard in level 4 was the one where they started talking about the different types of home loans.
Yeah.
And so you have to have a really solid base of vocabulary to
You do.
even to approach that, because a native speaker is even going to find that topic complicated, where you're talking about the variable rates and the fixed rates and the balloon mortgages and all those different types of things. That is
Right.
in level 4.
Yes, yes. And level 4 is actually the level where you should be entering ESOL, because you're getting to the point where you have sophisticated enough language and ideas to start thinking about college. But that's not the way we're set up. I worry that the students who take these classes, any of these classes, don't have that level of English that they can really do well when they get into college. They think that they can speak enough English, but college is difficult. That's why not everybody goes to college or succeeds when they do go to college, because it's difficult, even for those of us who don't have language issues, right? And I hate for them to find out by going through all that trouble registering for college and then tanking. Oh, well. Okay, so here we are. We're back at our brochure. I hope that it makes a little more sense than it might look, because it's so complicated. I hope it makes a little more sense now. Ernesto, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, any thoughts or questions?
No, I think you kind of explained it very well. ESLX and the COMG are non-credit, trying to improve that English language, getting that used to the jargon, the language itself. We can transition students into the ESOL upon completing level 3, ESLX, and moving forward towards an education route if that's the route students want to take.
That's right. Good, good.
And
I want to recommend this brochure because it really has all the information packed together pretty well. Although who knows, the names of the courses might change, in which case Maria will have to update us, which would be great. Well, Ernesto, feel free anytime to contact me or Maria. And I know you know that you can contact Cherie anytime if she's not in the hospital having a baby. We'll do what we can to support you.
I'm a bad one that will still answer the phone anyway.
Oh, yeah, right. Ah! Yes, Ernesto. Ah!
You guys know me. I will be the one. Hang on a second. Hang on. Let me take this phone call.
That wouldn't be me. I'd quickly throw the phone under the bed somewhere. Okay. Anything else we need to do today? Do we have plans for the next meeting?
Yeah, I'm grabbing my notebook really quick to look at what our next meeting was going to be.
Okay.
But I think you covered it very, very well. I like the visuals a lot, and I think that's going to be really helpful if we share this to cross-train other faculty and staff.
Okay.
It gives them a really good gist of, what the program is, because even if they're going to be referring the students over to us, they still have the talking points that they need, because the students want some basic information about what the programs are and, well, what's the difference. And then the other thing that will happen that we haven't addressed is, but we brought it up the other day, is you might receive those reverse referrals. So you might have the students that are already in integrated reading and writing quite prepared, and they get referred back over to us.
Yeah, and that is something it's real easy for a student to feel put down or something or embarrassed. But the fact is, has nothing to do with their intelligence. It's just more practice. Language is slow, and it takes hundreds of hours of active practice.
Yeah, it's a very delicate situation when that happens.
It is.
But I didn't want to bring up that does.
It does happen. It should happen more. It should happen more, because the teachers who teach the INRW classes that's not their specialty. They don't necessarily understand why a person has certain difficulties or questions, and it's real easy to get frustrated with students when you don't understand where they're coming from, or you've got deadlines to meet and lots of other students to serve, and you can't go back and try to fill in.
Yes, and I will say with our INRW team, I think they realize that, because now that we have this extension of the program and the ESOL and everything like that, now they know, okay, I have an alternative. And
I'll bet they're relieved.
I would say from speaking with them, they're breathing a collective sigh of relief.
I bet they are, yeah.
Because I've been there with them where they're looking at this stuff and they're just like, I'm not sure where to even start this person, because my book only goes here, or the training I've had only goes to here, but they need this.
And it's something that very often the kinds of issues that the students are having are not things we're even aware of, because we come with our assumed baggage from our culture and our language, the way it works. We just don't even think about it. I remember the first time I ever heard of count and non-count nouns was teaching a level 2 class. And I thought, what is this? Because it's just not something I ever had to think about. And then all of a sudden I had to think about it. So I wasn't even conscious of some of the things that come up. But when you know more about another person's language, you also can understand what's going to be difficult or why they're going to have a particular question or misunderstanding. I discover stuff all the time. That's part of what makes this so fun.
It is, but we never have a dull moment. And the reason that could take place, because I know anybody who's watching this or listening in might say, well, how would that happen? How would they end up in INRW first? Is that could be a student that applied through that traditional path. Right. And then remember, we do have students that are in ESOL that did graduate from high school here in the United States, but they came to the United States as a teenager.
Right.
So you'll see that where they came from one of the area high schools. They've applied to the college just like normal. They get into INRW 0090, and then they realize, well, wait, I've only lived in the United States 2 years, even though I graduated from high school here. I'm not ready for this course.
Or they don't know why they're having trouble because they have no trouble communicating with their friends. But we use our everyday exchanges involve about 2,000 head words. That 2,000 vocabulary of 2,000, you can cope really well. But you need over 10,000 to graduate high school and go into college, and that's at the low end. So people who haven't had time to pick up more language than they hear around them are at a huge disadvantage.
And the other thing that will come up that I wanted to bring up is sometimes you'll also see the students that are coming in from the certificate programs. That's a question I did receive from one of the faculty advisors too.
Oh yeah.
What they said, well, what happens if the student signs up for just a certificate program? They just want to do automotive. They just want to do the basic welding certificate. Is there anything that stops them from going in there if they don't speak English at all?
Yeah.
And there is not. If they have that waiver on file,
really,
the TSI waiver is on file, like where it shows up as a certificate waiver instead of checking.
No.
If that program does not require them to be TSI met, they can bypass all those requirements and they can sign up for that first automotive or heating air conditioning class and not any English. So there is a way around it.
That's really bad because, like I said the other day, I have collected some of the beginning level books of technical programs, and the English is really complicated and long sentences and all kinds of non-usual meanings of words, and diagrams and small print. The students, we need a way to capture these students, and we need to be able to, what I'd like to see is us offer a program for those particular students. So to support, say, welding students, or to support automotive students, or whatever, designed specifically for the students who are already enrolled. Because otherwise they're just spending money and using their time. Even if they were professionals in their own country, not professionals, but in the sort of second level economy.
Yeah, and like you were telling us, in some cases, they may have been a mechanic or anything like that in their country, but that machinery may look different, and they've got to read the manuals here.
Right. And they also have different rules to follow and procedures. And I mean, where I come from, we could use baling wire on the pickup truck, but you can't get inspection passed by doing that. You have to do that between inspections, you and your dad, you know.
No,
it's not repair.
That's